Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to class this afternoon. Thank you for joining me, whether you are watching live or you are watching the recording. I appreciate you joining. Today we should have a bit of a shorter class. We're talking about Canva, and it's a pretty easy tool to use. So what I just want to do is I want to talk for a little bit about why we would want to create custom graphics for a website, what kind of the importance of using tools like this is, and then I just want to do a couple quick demonstrations in Canva. That plus the demonstrations that you have in the module. Really, it's super intuitive. It's super easy to use. I don't think anybody will have any issues operating with this sort of material. This is probably the module where we can all kind of take a sigh of relief really quickly and just relax a little bit, right? This module and the previous module, not very code intensive. We'll get back into some code next week with some CSS preprocessors. But before we start talking about custom graphics in Canva, just a reminder that your DevTools assignments are due today by 11:59 p.m. tonight. You can get those turned in. If you have any questions regarding those, let me know. The big deal with that module, again, just as a reminder from what we discussed last week, is just that you're able to use these tools, just have an extra tool in your tool bag to be able to help you to solve problems. And, give you some good insight into your website's efficiency and efficiency primarily. Effectiveness is a whole different thing. Your website's efficiency with tools like Lighthouse, which we looked at previously. So, actually using them to solve problems, not as big of a deal as just knowing what they are and kind of being able to use them in this instance. So custom graphics creation in Canva, we're talking about giving life to our website, right? One of the things that I mentioned in the announcement today is basically, every website that you see has some sort of media on it, right? It's going to have some sort of image, some sort of video. Video on the web is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And so we're going to want to be able to create these things, because oftentimes the exact things that we want to be able to put on a website, we don't know if they exist. They might not exist anywhere. And as such, we'd have to create them to have the right graphic or the right little video to put on our website. And most of the time, right, if we were in industry, you'd have dedicated designers that were a part of your development firm who would be really adept in things like the Adobe Creative Cloud, the Adobe Creative Suite. And, they'd be able to knock out, great custom graphics for you. And I know the Adobe Creative Cloud. I've taught classes here at the college before on Photoshop, on Illustrator, Premiere, After Effects, these different tools. But also, like I mentioned in the announcement today, I can teach a whole class on just one of those pieces of software, right? I can teach an entire 14 to 16 week semester class on just Photoshop or just Illustrator or just Premiere, right? So being able to pick up one and use those pieces of software right away, next to impossible, right? Like, you could probably do some really basic stuff pretty quickly, but you really, there's a huge learning curve there in the Adobe software. So we want to kind of fall back to something that would give us even, roughly this, a good amount of options in terms of being able to make custom things, while at the same time being easy to pick up and use, right? And a lot of this is just going to be, in terms of you all learning kind of what to do and what works and what doesn't, is just going to be you all just kind of experimenting, right? That's one of the big goals of the assignment for this module, is to get you in the creative, or in the Canva cloud software there, creating different types of graphics, multimedia that's appropriate for a site. But before we actually do a demo on that, let's just talk about why we would do such a thing really quickly. The first thing, we kind of got this idea here that custom graphic creation is important, right? Again, this is something that kind of dovetails nicely with a lot of the things that we're doing in the design class at this point. As we've kind of mentioned before, this course typically being taught, alongside these other classes. These things sort of dovetail nicely and kind of work together in context, right? Like we talked kind of last week and, the last few weeks about how the jQuery module and the DevTools module kind of dovetails nicely with the Web 2.15 when we're going through it. And this Canva discussion really dovetails nicely with the Web 2.10 when we go through that. So since you're not taking them concurrently at the moment, these will just be things that we kind of remember, we put in our back pocket, that we have these ideas of when we go forward for the fall and you're actually taking those courses. But when we're looking at custom graphic creation on a site, right, it's giving our website an identity, it's giving our website a voice, it's allowing, a different medium of communication to be able to, express ideas to our users that are coming to our site. So we really want to understand why we would do this in the first place and why we would create these custom graphics. And I have here what I like to call the 3 I's of custom graphics. These are interest, inform, and influence. And you could probably already see how these might work, right? When we're talking about interest, we're talking about kind of catching someone's eye. When we're talking about inform, we're talking about kind of keeping their attention, giving them information, communicating with them. And when we're talking about influence, we're talking about guiding next steps. So when we're looking at the 3 I's in this sort of way, we're kind of looking at the journey of a user that is utilizing our website and kind of how we can use custom graphics to bring them in, give them information, and help them decide what to do next, right? The whole journey of our user there. So the first I is interest. We want to interest the user, right? And the fact of the matter is that we have millions of people online looking at billions of websites every single day, right? So our website in particular is just one of many that someone might see on a given day. So if we can bring something to the table that is eye-catching, that is intriguing, that is unique to our site, that is custom for what we're doing, that's going to help break through the noise, break through the clutter, and get you noticed. And really, it's not just speculation, right? Like, it's not just me talking about, kind of this interest or attention grabbing that graphics can provide for us. It's science. Right, when we look at Facebook, for example, Facebook has done studies that have shown that visual content, images, videos, it's been shown to garner more engagement. So when we're talking about engagement on social media, we're talking about things like comments and shares and interactions. So I could just write some words there, and we see some words on a page, and it could communicate to us some really good information, but just the plain text on a plain background isn't really inspiring. It's not really eye-catching, right? Like that's why we even see people on social media who will have just a text post that will write the text with the fancy background stuff. Right? Because it is that important that you're trying to call out to people's attention. Otherwise, if we're not using any kind of graphics, our text is just kind of going into the background, fading into the noise and the clutter of everything else that's going on around you. And when we're looking at information overload, which is another big topic that we talk about in the web design course in the fall, we talk about information fatigue and ad fatigue and all these sorts of things, to where when we're presented with so much information, we have to pick and choose what we let in and what we shutter out. And so, for example, one of the things that we talk about is like, well, when something looks like an ad, we train ourselves and see something that looks like an ad, right? So when something looks like an ad, we know that's an ad. I don't need to pay that any attention. That goes to the side. This looks interesting. Let me engage with this. Right? That visual is going to be something that's going to help you get remembered. Another thing is, it's going to go on to our second eye. And the second eye here is going to talk about informing the user of who you are. And, the amount of words on this slide in particular, but these are some wordy slides that I have for you today. But this should give you a demonstration of just how important graphics are, right? Because we can see text on a background, which we have here. But wouldn't it be a little more intriguing if there was some kind of graphic there or some other sort of method of communication that is informational instead of just this plain text? Right, so it's kind of a thing and a thing here. A great custom graphic, it's more than just a pretty picture. It's a communication tool. Right? It's going to function as a means of communication. Because if you can get somebody's attention with that graphic, then in turn, that graphic is conveying a message. It's conveying a message visually. So when you think about here's the thing, here's this graphic. What is this graphic telling me? Is it a picture? Is it trying to convey some information to me? Is it reading happy? Is it reading sad? Is it reading upset? Right? Like we get emotions from graphics. We get information from graphics. We get calls to action from graphics, right? We get inspired by graphics to do other things, which is sort of the next slide as well. But we're not just showing our user a picture. We are conveying our user a thought through a visual medium. So you, and by extension your website, you have unique things about you that make you different from everybody else. Right? So it's not just that this looks interesting, but it's something that makes this site unique, and it gives our user this sort of information about the originality, the uniqueness, the difference that with this website presents. So it's giving you an opportunity to show your personality and set you apart from everything else that's out there, right? Those billions of websites. It also gives you a opportunity to create a common through line through your social media. Right? Because if you have the same kind of visual messaging, the same logo, the same types of graphics from your social media to your website to anything that you do, maybe in print advertising or anything like that, you're creating a consistent visual message that is telling your story across different platforms. So immediately when somebody sees you elsewhere, they're making that connection and they're relating this custom graphic that they saw about you, maybe on a billboard, to your website, to your Facebook page or your Twitter page, right? You're making that connection, you're building that through line, and you're creating a consistent brand. And, when we look at our example here, a marketing company might want to provide detailed infographics about their services. Right? What are the things that we as a marketing company do? And how effective are those things? Like we can do SEO optimization, and that typically brings in, an additional 20% in traffic. Right? And so instead of just writing that down, I create an infographic. I create a nice picture that conveys that message. And so that's one thing that's really nice for a marketing company. But then you have a local dentist office that might want to send out a notice about a change in office hours. Both of these things are important. Both of these things are designed to gain the attention of the user. But they're both very different messages that would be conveyed. So the type of custom graphic that you would create in each instance is going to be dependent on, what you're the message that you're trying to get across, who you're trying to reach, and the types of things that you're wanting to say, more so than just the message itself. We want to make sure that we're getting people to notice and getting people to care about our message and inform the user in the process. And the final I is to influence. We want to influence our user to a call to action. So with our website, there's typically something that we want our user to do. We want them to make an appointment. We want them to read something. We want them to watch something. We want them to buy something, right? There's typically some kind of action that we want our user to do. So if we have gained their interest, if we've gotten their attention, and then we've used that to inform them about our personality and who we are and why, they might need more information or they might need to do this thing, then from there we can use our graphics to influence our user to do the thing, whatever that thing might be. Right? So, for example, here at the college, we want a student to register for classes. Right? So would we put out a little message that says, just plain text on Facebook, register for classes by August 9th or whatever? No, right? Because that's not going to get anybody's attention. That's not going to get anybody's interest. That's not going to interest anybody. That's not going to... it is informative, but it doesn't really give them much information outside of what the text is, right? There's no visual conveyance of, say, urgency or any sort of consistent brand messaging for the college. And so from here, I can also influence, right? So I could use a graphic of a student, and it just says register for classes by August the 9th. And that might catch your attention. And it might, it's definitely informing you of a message, right? It's giving you that text-based information you'd want to know, and it's also providing that branded sort of collegiate personality. But what that's lacking is the influence. Right? So what if I took that and reframed it a little bit, right? Because there's no immediacy here. There's no... there is a call to action, but it is passive. What if we did something that made our call to action just a little bit more active? Like maybe we had a picture and it was somebody that looked concerned or somebody that looked kind of surprised or shocked. Maybe they were also wearing, some sort of professional attire, or maybe they just, maybe they looked like a student. Maybe they were wearing a backpack, however you'd want to kind of convey who your user is. And they look kind of frazzled and they look kind of shocked. And with our messaging, we told them it's not too late. We present them with this idea of urgency, and we say, it's not too late. You can still do this. You can still go register here, even if we're, a month out, right? A month away, because the earlier that people come and register, the better plan that we're able to make, and the more, ready that faculty and staff and all that kind of stuff will be on the first day of school to accommodate everybody coming to campus and all that kind of fun stuff. So we can use our graphics to not only communicate a fact that we want them to know and communicate our personality to them, but influence a user to a call of action to where they do what we want them to do. Another way that we can do this in a slightly different way is through the use of arrows, right? Like when we look at social media, we see the use of arrows being done. YouTube thumbnails are kind of the cheesiest example of this, where you're trying to highlight something specific, so I'm going to draw an arrow that points to it, right? Because we're conditioned that when we see arrows, that arrow is pointing to something important, that arrow means something, and so we build that urgency and we move on to this call of action. So I could have a button on a website, and that's all well and good, but what if I had an arrow pointing to that button on a website? What does that add to it? Right? It's giving you direction. It's pointing you right to the specific call of action. Again, one of the things that we talk about in the Web 2.10 in the class is kind of guiding a user flow. And there are definitely more subtle ways to do that, but that is a more overt way of guiding user flow, just directing them right at where you want them to click or the thing that you want them to do. We can invoke, color psychology into all of this. That's pretty interesting if you want to kind of get into that on your own time there, and just kind of tell a story that takes our user, and again, this is something that the social media class we talk about a lot, takes them down the funnel, right? And guides their action from coming onto the site to staying onto the site to doing what you want them to do, right? Everything, when we get into this kind of stuff, everything gets kind of interconnected a little bit. Right, so those are our 3 I's. That sounds all well and good, right? That sounds pretty powerful. And so how can we do that, right? Like we've already said, the Adobe Creative Cloud, that can be a pretty steep learning curve. We can do whole classes just on one piece of software from that. And we're focusing on Canva because it's a lot easier. Canva's cloud-based, which means any PC, right? It's a website. So you can log on to it in the library and start a project there, and then get home and on your laptop and work on it there, and then go somewhere else, and maybe they have a Mac or a different operating system, but that's okay because this is a website and it works on any computer. So you can just get on that and work on it there. Quickly and easily gets us to do what we want. So let's enter demo time. So this is my Canva homepage. This is the Canva homepage for one of my Canva accounts. I have a couple different ones for, that I use for different purposes. One of the things that I want to kind of call out really quickly is that Learn and Play section there in the middle. And let me go full screen here so you can see this a little bit better. That Learn and Play section there in the middle, that's, when we have the things like the summer vacation remix, the design challenge there, and, kind of creating charts and designing with color. Like, you can actually go through these different items for specific tutorials, right? For example, design with color here pulls up a presentation that they made in Canva, and it goes through all the different things that you can do in Canva with color. So I encourage you all, you know, if you're kind of especially if you're kind of struggling to use this learn and play section, right? They want you to be able to make something neat, right? And we can see here how this has kind of been designed for webmasters, for social media managers, for small businesses, right? You know, when we look at like, what will you design here? It's presentations and social media and video and prep products and marketing and more, like all sorts of stuff that you can do here. You'll see that, you know, we have already pre-planned sizes here for different items. If I click on more, right, I can look at things like a Zoom background or an infographic or a photo collage, a desktop wallpaper. Gets into specific stuff like YouTube intro here, right, or a blog graphic. So it's providing you with templates just right off the bat that you can just click and open up and modify to create something new. Or you can just do something yourself from scratch, which is what I like to do. So one of the things that I will do to kind of start out here is I will go up here and you can either click on create a design, and that will give you another menu here of some common things that people do. For example, Facebook post, Instagram post, various other things. It also gives you the opportunity to edit a photo here, right? So if you have a photo that you just want to resize quickly, something like that, or just apply some quick edits to, you can do that. Here's a photo of the college store. I can edit the photo. I can resize this photo. I can apply some filters to it. I can do some different things to it, right? So if I were, for example, cropping this photo to only be, say, this part of the front of the college store, I can do that. Various other things, right, just to kind of get it ready for my site. But what I would actually suggest, instead of doing something like that, would be to just create a new graphic. And so I'll go to custom size, and I will enter the size that I want my graphic to be on my site, right? You know, that's something that we talk about even in Web 115, is that, you know, when we're starting to add pictures to a site, if we start with a relative size that we want it to be, then we're not loading an entire huge picture, right? So for my demonstration today, for the first demonstration, I'd like to create a graphic that I need to create anyway. And that's for a new cybersecurity course that we're starting this fall, which is CCT 121, Computer Crime Investigation. So I want to just create a quick banner for Blackboard that will that we can put in that class. And so I will just enter the width and height. I can enter it in pixels or inches or whatever. Since it's a web element, I'm going to enter it in pixels. And I want it to be 1920 by 300. This is just a size that I use for banners on occasion. It's a good banner size. Your mileage may vary in terms of the exact sizes that you need. But one of the things that you notice here when I do this, here on the left-hand side of the screen, it gives me some templates. So if it already has some templates in the system that people have generated for something of that size, then it's going to put them here. And one of the things that you'll see here is that I think these are all free templates. So I could just click on one of these here, have it in there, and then be able to edit everything that's in this template, edit the colors, the background, and all this different sort of stuff, right? And so that's, that's nice, right? Like, that's real good. But it is less than custom if somebody else already has that graphic. So one of the things that I'll do instead is head over here to the Elements panel as a good way to start. In the Elements panel, we can get clip art, we can get shapes, we can get a lot of images, different things that we can use in our graphics. Right, so I'm going to go ahead and rename this. I'm going to go ahead and find the name up here. Since I hit that template, it renamed it to #Webbies. I want to call this CCT 121 banner. And so let's just enter in maybe computer here and see what we get. And so when we type in computer here, you see all of the different clip art and different things that we get here. One of the things that you'll notice is that some of the items will have a little crown in the lower right-hand corner of them. That indicates that that is a pro element, and you have to have a paid account to use those items. I've never really encountered an issue where I needed a paid account. This is the account I'm on is a free account. I kind of like this idea for a graphic here. That seems pretty cool. Let me just click that and bring it in. Blow it up a little bit. Now we have this kind of circuitry image here, which is pretty neat. We can tell that this is a raster image instead of a vector image because it doesn't give me any color options here at the top to change the colors of it. For example, if it was a vector image, it'd probably be something more like this. No, that's not one either. Let's try to find a vector image so you can see the difference. Here is one. When I have a vector image that's made out of vectors, so that's like an SVG versus a JPEG, right? SVG is going to be your vector. Your JPEG is going to be your raster. But I have options as to how to change the colors in this vector version here. So I can go up and I can recolor it just by clicking on each of the colors that are currently in the graphic and changing them to something different. Right, with a raster graphic, you can kind of get around changing the colors with filters. Right, so I can edit the image and I can adjust. I can do some adjustments on tint here, so I can kind of change the colors a little bit that are in there. I can increase the saturation. Sort of the basic things that you would do with this sort of, with graphics editing softwares here. And again, a lot of what we want to see is just kind of you trying it out. Right, another way I could change the colors here is with the duotone option here. That gives me some predefined colors that I can change it to, like maybe sea blue here. That might be a cool one. That's kind of close to the college's colors. So we can use that there. I'm going to bring in a custom graphic for this one in just a little bit. I'm going to bring in a custom image. But another thing that I like to do on occasion is I will use these shapes to kind of help mark out different areas of my image. Right, so in my elements panel, I can visit lines and shapes. I can get all sorts of shapes. And then I can use a shape, say this one here, right, and use that to kind of create a little segment a little bit of my image for me. Right, I can position, and I can send that, with the position button here at the top, I can send that to the back. I can recolor that shape to make it a different color, and so on and so forth, right? So if I just wanted to have a little graphic that looked like that there, I can do that. And that's kind of sectioned off my image here. So the next thing that I might want to add here would be text. So I have this little text panel here on the left-hand side. And so I can add a heading, I can add a subheading, I can have some templates here that look cool. Again, here you see that little crown in the corner for the ones that are, for pro accounts only. But I can add a heading. And this is computer, crime, investigation. I can type that out there just like I was using, Word or anything else. I can adjust the alignment here at the top, right? You're just using your tools here at the top just like you would in Word or anything else. I can change the color. I can change, whether I want it uppercase or camel case, bold, italic, underline. I can even change the font here, so in my font menu. So there's a lot of good fonts that are in here. A lot of these are in the Google font repository. You'll see some of them are pro fonts. So I just want to find a font that's going to, kind of look cool and work well for my project. I kind of like this one. If you find that there's too much space between your line, we have this spacing icon here at the top. You can click that, adjust your letter spacing, which spaces out your letters a little more, which you might want to do or you might not want to do, and adjust your line spacing and make that spacing between the lines a little bit less. But we'll make that a little bit bigger. Actually, I might make that a little bit smaller. Move it around here. Change the color of the font. Just highlight the text. Select the text color from here at the top. Change the color of the font. And then we could even add, the course title here. Or the course prefix, right? If I hold down Alt and just drag something that already exists, it'll make a copy of it. And I can say this is CCT 121. Make this font smaller. Add it in. And just play around, and try to find what kind of creatively suits the course or creatively suits whatever you're doing. I already have some media uploaded here. One of the things that I might want to do, for example, is add the CCC logo. I have a version of the CCC logo added here that I can deal with. If you look at the box, the bounding box in the image here, you can see that we have these dots, these circles that are on the corners. These are, sizing handles, and then the bars that are around it, these are cropping handles. So I can actually crop an image down and get part of it out of there by just doing that. And if you want to lock part of an image to make sure that you don't move it by accident, For example, maybe I want to lock this green block that I have here just so I don't move it by accident. I can make sure that that item is highlighted, and I can click this lock here at the top. And so from here, right, we can add custom graphics, right? That's what the Uploads tab is for here. So I can go, just to any site that I can get custom graphics from, like Pexels is a good one, pexels.com. I can write in something like cybercrime, since this is a cybercrime course. I can find something that looks interesting, that looks like it might fit. This looks like one that might be cool. Let's download this one. Then back in Canva, I can upload it by uploading media. Pull it into my graphic. Resize it. Send it to the back. Looks like they're having a bit of an issue right now. I wonder if I have too much in my free account here. Let me try to get rid of some of this stuff. Because if you don't need it anymore after you've used it, you can delete it. And everything's cool. Let's just try to upload it again. That looks a little bit better. Throw it in there. Send it to the back. And we have an interesting graphic for a computer crime investigation course. A nice little blackboard header there. Once you get it done, you can click share and download it. And that will give you the option to download. So that's how we do a static image. Doing a video is much the same, right? If I go back to the home page, if I wanted to create a little video, I can create one that is of different sizes, right? So by default, a video is 1920 by 1080. If I wanted to click the video tab here, it gives me different video sizes. For example, if I wanted to make a square video or TikTok or Instagram Reels or whatever, you can also just make a custom size, right? So for argument's sake here, I'm just going to create a 450 by 360 video. And when I'm creating something as a video, essentially all I'm doing is I'm going to add stuff to it, right? And I'm going to adjust the timing here, and I'm going to add pages and add different things to it. So let's try to add some video material here. So let's just, for the sake of argument, really quickly, let's just try, typing in computer again. If I look around my elements and type in computer there, I might see some animated images here, like this animated GIF here, or this one here. That's one of the ways that we can really easily make something animated. If I wanted to have something kind of fly in, for example, I can add some text here. Welcome to our site. Look at the line spacing on that. Make it a little bit smaller. Try to make it fit into the window here. Maybe we can have it appear or fly in. This is, when we're doing animations here, it's going to be very similar if you've ever done animations in PowerPoint, right? So I can make this sort of fly in by clicking the animate button here. I have different options here for animating something on. Letting it fly in. The glitch here kind of looks good with the screen the way it kind of is. If I click the up arrow down here at the bottom where it's talking about show pages, that's just a different kind of look to it. If I want to duplicate this page, for example, and then maybe get rid of this animation in and just add an animation out, I can look at the animation palette here and maybe just do one on exit here. And so now I can preview this by clicking the play button here at the top of our screen. And it shows you animating it in and animating it out. So we end up with a little, so there's the animation in. It disappears. We get another little flash of it, I think. Yep, before the video is over there. Really simple. From here I can download it. It's going to give it to me as an MP4 video file, which is exactly what I want. And it is just as easy as that. And again, really the big thing here, that's where we're going to kind of stop our demo today. The big thing here is just to get in there and play with it. Try things out. Work with things. That's going to teach you more about how things work than I could in an hour, in 2 hours, in 10 hours, right? Just getting your hands on and getting in there and actually making things is going to be really good. So that's what I suggest that you all do. So that's all that I have for you for today. We'll hang out and chat for just a couple minutes, just in case anybody who is here with me live has any questions. But yeah, that's all that I've got for you. Remember your DevTools module due tonight. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.